Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano Grimaudo. Marcy, thanks so much for joining me today. How you doing?
Giuliano, it is so awesome to be with you. You have no idea how many years I've been waiting to talk to someone with the experience that you have.
Oh, really? That's interesting. That's super interesting. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. And, for anybody who's listening for the first time, like Marcy and I don't know each other at all. This is the first time we're ever talking. And that's kind of how I like it. I like to kind of recreate the scenario that I had driving Uber for over a decade and just kind of get to know each other here on the podcast. And I feel like the conversations we have always end up being so awesome. And so I'm excited to see where this goes. I can see you've got a book up here. So like, I'm definitely interested to dive into that, but go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself and we'll kind of go from there.
About me, well, I spend my life teaching the world what I consider to be the truth about showing up. How has nature designed human beings to show up so that we thrive? It's obviously not the way we're showing up today, because something like 50% of people, feel chronic levels of either loneliness or depression or anxiety or dissatisfaction with life or lack of meaning or disconnectedness. Basically, we're not showing up in the world the way that we're designed to, nor is society, nor are our situations. And we can talk about that because there's a little model in the book. But so anyway, that's just a little bit about me. And I've got, this is based on global studies, hundreds of thousands of data points. I do research that's evergreen, meaning it keeps going. The first global study was in 1999. So you can understand that this is a very data and science funded model. It's not kind of one person opining.
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting because I will say that, I don't have any research to back me up, but I say a lot of the similar things to what you're saying. I actually was just talking to someone yesterday on the podcast about this exact subject. So I love that you are going to actually have research to be able to show all of this. But one of the things that I've been saying a lot lately is that exactly what you said, right? There's a lot of people who are depressed, who are lonely, who have anxiety, and I think that there is how can I describe it? There's like a misunderstanding of it where it's this idea that you've now been diagnosed with this thing, this disease that you've somehow caught or whatever it is that you're plagued with now, versus maybe it's that something is not in alignment in your life versus how you are designed to be. So I'm curious to hear what your take is on that.
Right. All of society. Yeah. So I will explain the very simple model. It's the sort of thing that once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like, it's there, everyone is showing up. We're at one of three levels, barely there, just showing up, which is the problem space where we just get up and start doing stuff. I'll explain what part of the brain we use, how our body responds, all of that. And then there's truly showing up over here. But before we get into that, Giuliano, I very much want to understand what led to your decision to drive for Uber, and in general, how was your experience, and what are you doing now?
Yeah. So I started driving Uber. So I started driving Uber back in, it was probably 2014, something like that, when I was working at Trader Joe's. So I loved working at Trader Joe's. It was like my favorite job. But there were a couple things. First of all, it's retail hours, and I didn't really like the retail hours. And also I hurt my back while I was working there, and I didn't want to do that again. So I was thinking, what can I do? And what's funny is that it's crazy now to think about it, because Uber and Lyft are just so it's just a regular part of life now. But at the time, nobody knew what that was. And it was just starting. And I go and I'm just like, hey, yeah, I'm doing this thing. And people were like, wait, you're just letting a stranger get in your car? And I was like, yeah. So, but for me, I did it because I wanted flexibility. And that was kind of what I got with it. What was really cool is that for a while, when I started this when I was living in Chicago, and when I was living there, I was driving Uber, and I actually made really good money, and I could kind of make my own schedule and do whatever I wanted. And I did it full time for a long time. And over the years, because like I said, it's been over a decade now at this point, it's always kind of like been there as like a backup, right? So there were times, right, like when I said when I quit working at Trader Joe's, I was driving Uber basically full time. And then over the years, it was like sometimes I was doing it full time, sometimes part time,
Yeah.
sometimes not at all. Right? There were years that went by I didn't do it at all. It just kind of depended what was going on in my life, and it was nice as like this kind of like it was just a way that like, hey, I could just make money just by going out and doing something that I enjoy, which is driving and talking to people. And for
Mhm.
me, I had a great experience. Like I honestly love driving Uber. It's so much fun to me because I love driving and I love talking to people. And I think part of it is, determining like, okay, does this person even want to talk? Right. There's a lot of people I end up not talking to because you can tell they don't want to. But the ones that do, man, I had some really, really awesome conversations doing it.
And do you stay in touch? I mean, did you exchange information with these people?
Yeah, so I think like Uber and Lyft, they kind of have policies against it, but there were some people that
Really?
I always had like a generic business card with me that just had my name and phone number, and so I would give it to people. And there are a few people I've stayed in touch with, but like for the most part, we kind of just would part ways.
That's amazing. Now, how did you perceive that implicit, yes, I'll talk to you, no, I won't?
It was just it was just kind of a vibe I would get, and I think it was if I had to get more specific, it was probably more like you could just tell by the way they responded, right? And
Right,
like most people, if they wanted to talk, they would like ask a question back, and if they didn't, they would just answer the like if I'm like, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's good. And
right,
then silence. You're like, okay, this person doesn't really want to talk. I might ask one more question, and then same thing, like just the answer. It's like, okay, they don't want to talk. That's fine.
right.
But if they ask me questions back, then we end up having a back and forth.
That's amazing. And what are you doing now?
Oh man, I do so many different things. Like I'm doing this podcast. I've got my real estate license, so I've been selling some houses. I have a marketing company that I've built. I've written a couple books. I honestly, I just have my hand in so many things. That was part of the reason why Uber was so valuable to me because it was one of these things where I'm like, I can still experiment and follow these like passionate parts of my life that maybe aren't making
Mhm.
money yet, but they will later. So in the meantime, I can fill in the gaps with this. And so that was kind of like the story of like why I did it and like why I did it for so long.
That's awesome. Right. And real estate gives you a really good foundation because once people know you, they refer you. And if they buy a house every 10 years, they come back.
Yeah.
Can I just mention the top of my screen is saying trying to reconnect, make sure. I just want to make sure this is recording. Is it?
Yeah. No, it's recording. We're good.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, great. Amazing.
Yeah. So tell me about like, did you like eventually go and write this book, or did you like what I'm saying is like were you like learning about all of this research and all of that and doing all this research and then writing it, or were you like I need to write a book about this, so I got to go find some research to like better understand it? I'm curious how like what the process was like.
Oh my word. No, 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 no. So, I mean, I am an endless disciple of human behavior, and I have been my entire life. So, starting at age 6, I lost the ability to show up as I chose. What started to happen, we suddenly moved. Both my parents were doing postdoctorate work at Johns Hopkins. And my father was offered this amazing job to start the first department of nuclear medicine at Harvard, at Harvard's teaching hospital. It's called Mass General.
Okay.
And we moved. So there we are, little Marcy, I'm age 6. And all of a sudden, new home, new school, my friends are gone. I mean, I was excited about the house and everything seemed great, but I wasn't getting the attention that I needed. And I wasn't the sort of person to just act out. So I think what my body did, because I couldn't communicate what was going on, is I acted in, which means that the magic elixir of your genetics and predisposition plus the environment turned on those genes, and I started to stutter. My throat would lock,
Hmm.
and when your throat locks and you can't get words out, and it was not a common thing. So people just stare at you like you can't think, like you're dumb, you can't communicate.
Hmm.
In class, when my hand went up because, I was one of those kids. I pay good attention. I always felt like I had something to contribute. The moment my hand went up, like the whole class, the collective emotional system of the class went, oh, just a combination of sympathy and dread,
Mm.
basically. And the teacher was like, oh, I know at some point I'm gonna have to call on Marcy. And the whole class, you're gonna have to call on Marcy. And I was gonna pull people through this just horror of trying to get words out. So it was so painful that what happened, and like the whole reason the book exists is because my lens, my self lens, for people listening, I'm cupping my hands facing my face. My self lens turned from facing me to facing outward. So my mirror turned outward. And it was a self protective thing. Like when you deal with trauma and you're engaging with it, you know, very often some kind of wall goes up and you want to shut it off and put it in the closet. So you focus on something else. And I think that that's what I did. So I started to observe. I mean, gee, if I can't show up as I choose, how is everyone else showing up? So how is it that on the blacktop, after school, you've got these bullies who's slamming everybody out in the Foursquare, and then you've got these kids standing in line like scaredy cats. Oh my God, it's social suicide if this kid in the A square slams me out, and then the other kids in line trying to just look away because they can't engage socially. They don't have the skill, and then you've got the teachers kind of doing their own thing, not helping out.
Mm.
And it just became the pursuit of my life. Like, why are people showing up this way? Why doesn't everyone care about each other and act as if we care? Why are they all acting like they're separate from each other? We're not separate, because I felt the collective response to my situation.
Mm.
And, you can take a spoon and put it into the ocean and you can have a little spoonful of the ocean, but it's still a single part of the entire ocean.
Mhm.
So to me, that's everything. And we're just leaves on the trees of the world. Like we're all like this. And what I'm doing for listeners is I'm interconnecting my hands. So I just started to read every bit of psychology and neuroscience and evolutionary biology and behavioral economics I could get my hands on. I did my first global study of human behavior in 1999. I was very successful both on Wall Street and as a strategy management consultant with KPMG Consulting because of my perspective, my psychological perspective on what's driving people to do what we do. So then basically the book emerged, the model of how humans are designed to show up kind of emerged from all of my research. And, very simply, Giuliano, what we're taught by society in the last 250 or 300 years has grossly distorted what human beings knew years ago. And that's what the model is. We're in three roles, not one. You're not just an individualized self, and I'll define what that is. Everything you're doing right now is in response to the situation you're in, to me, right? I'm taking up inhabitants, not just in your mind, but in your body. The chemistry of your body is shifting right now. Giuliano, you are feeling my care. You are feeling my full attention. That's, by the way, that's a definition of love.
Mm.
Is directing your full non-judgmental attention at another human being. If that isn't love, I don't know what is, right?
Mm.
And beyond your situation member role, which is your second role, right? What you're thinking, feeling, and doing is because of the right now. There's a third role that you're in, right? And it's a member of something beyond yourself. Call it society, call it a family, call it a race, religion, call it a sports team. You're a member of all these things, a group of podcasters. And the reason that's so important is because that's also designing what you're doing. Why do you have a podcast? It's because society taught you this is a way to get a message out. This is a way to give back. This is something you enjoy that is perceived to be a good thing to do, right? All the messages that teach you what's important. And by the way, So that's your societal member role. A lot of them are lies, which we can get into, right? What is success? The money in the
Mm,
big house. That's come on. Like, come on, that's not success. Success is feeling that you are who you want to be and that you are making the mark on the world that you feel like you're supposed to be doing.
mm,
It says, but beyond a sense of purpose, feeling a sense of meaning is connecting you with a sense of belonging. You are becoming and you are belonging. Why? Because of how you are being right here, right now.
mm,
Anyway, there's lots to say about meaning, about significance, about mattering, about but I'm going to pause and we can get into like why the roles matter. You can say, well, Marcy, why do the roles matter? The roles matter because if you want to get rid of that anxiety and disconnectedness and depression and striving and not feeling present and all of those things, recognizing that you, just like everyone else and every tree and every idea that's out there, everything is in three roles. It has a
mm,
situational existence. It has a belonging within a much bigger picture, and it has an individualized self. And we can define
mm,
what self is. I mean, this is just the truth. Living more as just an individualized self is causing the problem. And here, so the circle, which is a rainbow, and there's a reason for it. What I've done here is, and I'll give you these slides, is I've shown the three roles: self, situation, and societal role.
okay.
And um, when I do large speeches and I tell people to take out a piece of paper and draw the proportion of their three roles that they live in, people just kind of innately put a line down the middle. My self role is like half of how I perceive the world and half of how I live.
Mm,
I'm present as much as I can be within my moments. Okay, my situation member role gets about 25%, and then the other 25% is, I like to do recycle and drive a hybrid car and not pollute
mm,
too much, and that's my societal role. And I try to think about that, like the
okay.
environment, that thing that's out there, which is totally wrong, by the way. You are my
Yeah.
environment,
Is
right?
there like is there a like a ratio that like it's supposed to be ideal? Is it like supposed to be in thirds or what?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said that. Picture the symbol of peace. It's roughly 30, 30, 30. Does
Mm,
that make more sense?
that is
I
interesting.
mean,
Yeah.
there's a tree outside my window that I'm staring at.
Okay.
It's getting the sunlight right now and it's drinking in a lot of water because it just rained. That's its situation member role. Is
Mm,
that more or less important than the fact that it's part of an entire grove of trees that are giving it whatever disinfectant it needs against the beetles that just showed up last month and infected the trees on the other side of the town, that are going through all the fungi to help that tree survive? That's its societal role, right?
mm,
And then, of course, it's also, I guess, an individualized tree because it looks like it is, even though it's interconnected with, I think, every tree on the planet, as Suzanne Simard showed us in a number
mm.
of years ago. So, I mean, is any one role more important than any other?
Yeah,
Think
I guess
about
not.
when we lived in tribes. You know, let's say your job was to forage and get certain mushrooms and pick berries off trees and things. Is that more or less important than the person who hunts and brings back meat, or the person who cares for or teaches the children? Like,
Mm.
which is more important? So you
Yeah, there isn't. They're all together. Like you said, the pieces are what make up the whole, and any of the pieces missing make it not the same whole.
well, it can't be. I mean, if the hunter gets hurt and doesn't, what you would eat changes.
Mm.
So how separate are you from your societal member role? How separate are you? Anyway, I mean, really, the definition of individualized self, it's not an individualized self. We are not separate from, as you look into my eyes, and I talk about this science in the book. If we were in an MRI scanner, and this study was done and replicated many times, I cite it from Stanford, from Harvard, and from Cornell. but people were put in MRI scanners and they were told to just look at each other. And these are people who didn't know each other.
Okay.
So what starts out is two brains doing their different thing, but within seconds, the brainwave started to do this
Really?
and become a single brainwave. It is called interhemispheric interpersonal neural resonance, I think is what it's called.
Interesting.
And then there's also a whole field of medicine now called interpersonal neurobiology. Dr. Dan Siegel is one of the founders of that. And it's very clear that humans merge. Dacher Keltner at the University at UC Berkeley at the Greater Good Science Center, he's a professor of psychology there. He did this study. There's a velvet curtain between two people, so they don't see each other. One places a few fingers on the other's forearm, and you have no idea who these people are. And within seconds, you know what they're feeling. And I don't mean just happy, sad, mad, glad. It can be nostalgia. It can be jealousy, like rich, nuanced things. The people got the emotion right 68% of the time, almost 70% of the time.
Wow.
They said something that was right on. And the likelihood of guessing right in this study was less than 8%. So, there's so much research. I can go on and on. There's so much research about how we are not separate from, but I'll pause and I can explain.
No, but that's seriously so interesting. So obviously I get why you're sharing these studies, right? Because it's showing that we are interconnected. But I also am really interested just specifically in the studies themselves. The one that you mentioned, the first, where you said people are looking into their eyes and then their brain waves, it's like they are in sync. So, but what does that mean? Like, what exactly does that mean when their brain waves are in sync?
So what it means, and then I'll explain what it means on the show up continuum.
Yeah,
level
please.
1 to level 2 to level 3. What it means, Juliana, is that instead of two separate minds and two beings, you're literally becoming a single mind, because your brain waves are doing the exact same thing because of each other, with and for each other. So you're not two people at that point. You are a combined, you are a me and we, or maybe I should combine you and me, but you are a single interconnected mind functioning as one at that point. And you are sharing that lived experience, okay, within your mind of the other. So that is what it means. And anytime you look into someone's eyes for a few seconds or more, that intra-connectedness within your brain will occur. It will occur. What stops it is if you're feeling any kind of threat, any kind of stress, so this is the sort of thing that puts us into just showing up mode. Just show up mode is you're just getting it done. And you are human doing, not a human being. You are mechanistic. Everything is an object, even if it's a person. You're an object. So let's say I was not an experienced podcast guest, and I was really nervous, or I was upset about what my teenage daughter's doing, or I had back pain. Like if there was something pulling me out of the moment with you, we wouldn't be merging. It wouldn't happen. So this is what happens as most of us move through our day. Why? Because we have these schedules that pull us along or push us along, or we have bosses that we're stressed about, or we have to get stuff done that doesn't really fit our needs for the day. We have to get stuff done, but really our daughter isn't feeling well, or we would prefer to be doing this other thing, or the job is meaningless. The latest statistics on meaning at work is that people feel, on average, 25% of what they do at work feels meaningful and 75% doesn't. That's kind of hard to get past because you spend your life doing it.
Yeah.
So like what is meaningful to us is over here, and our calendar would look a certain way, but our calendar looks like this instead. So there's a huge distance between what we feel is a good investment of our moments and what we're actually doing. And that is very hard.
Yeah. Well, I noticed because one of the things I noticed in the subtitle of your book is it says nature's playbook, right? So like, and I love that because for me, I totally agree that I think there is so much value in progress and in science, right? Like you're describing these research things that only exist because science exists, right? But also at the same time, there are things that we utilize today that were non-existent even 10 years ago that really do separate us from what is our natural way of doing things that
Yeah.
ultimately would be better. And so I'm curious to hear then, like, okay, so you're saying, okay, people are spending 25% of their time doing things that make them feel fulfilled. Okay, so what's the solution? Like, how do you fix that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I will explain that. First, you understand the truth about showing up, and then it changes what you do. And I don't believe in behavioral models of change, right? So, Cleary, I'm forgetting his first name, who wrote Atomic Habits.
Oh, James Clear.
James Clear. I mean, you can really try to push that boulder up a hill if you want and try to change behavior, but the way that you really change behavior is you change what you actually believe to be true.
Mm,
You shift how you perceive the world, and then you naturally start to do different things.
yeah,
You
totally.
naturally start to interact in a different way because the person means something different to you, and the
Mm,
moment means something different. So um, I will probably share some things now that I think change how people see the world. So we will be
okay.
getting there. Um, there's a continuum of level 1, 2, and 3. I will send you these slides so you can put them
Mm,
in the show notes. When you're living only in yourself, defined as like the I, me, mine type of self, the ego-driven self, it's in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, it's like in the middle of your brain. You feel disconnected from the world. And because of that, you feel a sense of threat, right? Like think
mm,
about the gazelle in the pack who's left behind, like it's going to be
yeah.
eaten. The moment you weren't with your tribe, you felt a sense of threat. When you feel a sense of threat, the entire world shows up to you the way you show up to the world.
Mm,
The world is a threat. You don't respond in a way that leads anyone to want to invite you out for dinner, right? At work, no one wants you on their team. The boss doesn't really feel the dedication from you because you're showing up concerned and threatened. Level 1, barely there. And just the bottom of just showing up, that's that. Um, Also pulling you into barely there are the obvious things. You're sick, you're ill, you're grieving. There's just a really tough time in life. There's divorce. Like there are a lot of things that justifiably pull us into just showing up
okay.
into barely there. It's not bad to be there. You have to be there to experience the other levels. You have like all 3 levels need each other, or the other one wouldn't exist, right? Can you have up without down? No. Can you have
Yeah,
light
I
without
see.
dark? No.
Yeah.
But they're not opposites. They're best friends, right? If you keep going up, picture the globe, you just come up from the bottom, right? You can't get rid of barely there and only try to just show up. That is the wrong way to see things. They're all best
Mm,
friends and need each other because we're flowing along the continuum every moment of every day. If you're a morning person and you've slept well, you might wake up in the green. And I'm going to explain what truly showing up really is because you attend to the world completely differently. You use your right hemisphere. Like it's
mm,
very different. Your nervous system is set to calm. So you might wake up feeling great, but then at some point you're going to need food or something's going to happen to make you grouchy, or you're going to just need a break and a walk around the block because you've been doing really great work for 3 hours and your brain is just diminished, right? You've used up all the oxygenated glucose that you got and you just need a break. So even if you start in the green, you move into the yellow, into the orange, maybe into the red. So we are bouncing around all day long, and so is everybody else. And the
mm,
moment someone got into your Uber, Giuliano, you knew are they level 1, 2, or 3. You knew.
mm.
You can look at people standing in the line at the grocery store. You can look around and you know how people are doing.
Mm,
And so truly showing up. Let's just talk about that. So
Yeah, let's talk about like the green end of the spectrum.
Right. So, so when you are relaxed and happy, and I think a lot of people haven't felt this in a long time, and they haven't felt it in a sustained way. The reason you're feeling that way most likely is because your nervous system is calm, right? You're not feeling threat. You're not dealing with something, some kind of trauma from the past that's showing up in a negative behavior pattern. Your right attention system is online, right hemisphere. Let me explain this. We have two hemispheres with a supposedly fiber that connects them in the middle cord, the corpus callosum. Really, it's not there to send things back and forth. Really, it's there to stop things from going back and forth. It's a filtering system.
Mm.
It's an inhibitory system. But you ask yourself, why do we, in literally every mammal that's ever existed, going back millions of years to something called the like Helamana nevelectensis, I mean, it's some kind of really early mind type thing, has a brain in two parts. Why? When we evolved out of nature, and maybe that's because of a god, people can like this fits with everyone's belief systems. When we evolved, we had to do two things. We had to eat, right? Grab, get, control over, power over, grab and get, attention, narrow, grab and get, to feed ourselves. But we also had to not be fed to something else. Broad attention, sensing what's out there, perceiving things not necessarily right in front of us, very
Mm.
broad perspective. How can we do both of those things at once with the same system?
Mm.
You can't. So our brain is divided. We have one part that does the narrow focus. I'm going to go kill that gazelle right now. Nothing else exists. When I focus on that, think about it. You're focused on one thing. The left hemisphere does this. It controls the right side of the body in most of us who are right-handed. It's all about control. And it will lock into one thing and it will represent what it expects to see because it can't perceive what's truly going on because that's in the other system. So what it's doing is it's enabling us to basically create a map, to create a model. I've seen the gazelle run before. In general, I know what it's going to do. And you're going to predict what's going to happen because that's what you need to do to fire your arrow or whatever it is and get it.
Mm.
That is your just showing up system. It does help you to get things done, but it treats everything like an object. It doesn't matter if the gazelle is a mommy gazelle and it has its babies over there. You're not going to feel anything other than I'm going to get this done. And that's not a living thing anymore. The right attention system in the right hemisphere, that's the one where when you look into your child's eyes, you're feeling massive connectedness and belongingness and cherishing and all of that. It's when you hear music and it's not just isolated notes. The left hemisphere, everything is in bits. It's bit, 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 bit. Have you ever seen a bird's head move? Boop, 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 boop. That's what the left hemisphere sees. It's a bunch of freeze frames.
Mm.
So music would sound like a bunch of isolated notes. But what we hear is the gestalt. What we hear in music, it moves us. It arouses emotion right away. That
Yeah.
only exists in the right hemisphere. Connected, being able to read the language of someone's body, right hemisphere. Being able to sense the implicit. The reason a joke is funny is because you're getting it. Like once someone explains it, that's a left hemisphere thing. So numbers, analysis, models, things that turn life into a static, non-dynamic, dead system. That's a left hemispheric attention. Okay. But when you're stressed or you just wake up and get it done mode, or you're just in get it done mode, chances are, if you see a colleague walk across the office, you're not going to remember, oh, didn't he tell me that his parents were getting old and were at the point where they were going to have to move into an elder care center? And he was really dealing with a lot of that and figuring out how expensive it is. You're not going to it's not going to come to mind. These things that elicit your heart. You're going to be just in like more of a machine.
Mm,
And you're not going to be able to presence right now. Presencing truly means you have to be in your right hemisphere's
mm,
system, because it's the only one that can perceive the reality of the moment, the truth. The left hemisphere is
mm,
going to lie, and it thinks it's right. It absolutely thinks it's right, because when you're out there to try to put an arrow into the gazelle, how does it help you to think about, is this the arrow that I really want? Is that like,
mm.
wow, look at how the sun is
Yeah.
reflecting off the fur. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I will stop there. But the difference, as you move into presencing in your situation member role, that right hemispheric attention system is coming online more. And what starts to happen is you start to notice things. And then once you notice, you tune in. And
Mm.
once you tune in, you feel with. And once you feel with, you enact care. So this is what this continuation is. And I'll tell you a short story, because I can't really see my camera and what I'm showing you. Notice, tune in, feel with, enact care. That's what happens as you go from barely there through just showing up into truly showing up.
Okay.
Do you have questions? Because I went through 300 pages and
Yeah, no, honestly, I love it. I feel like it really makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of things I've been learning recently about, like you said, about being present. And it's interesting to think like you can get there intentionally as well, right? Like I do believe what you said about like it's about who you're being. But like we can influence who we're being, right? Because you
how
talked
you're
about like presence and noticing things. And so like if we're intentionally like, hey, let me slow down and try to notice details. What am
yes,
I feeling? Right. That's like when people talk about like becoming present and like meditating, and like it gets you into that state of what you were talking about of like existing and like having this like bigger
definitely.
picture view.
Right. Mindfulness is built into the showing up. Eastern philosophies, the contemplative sciences, all of that's built into the model of how we truly show up. I want to be careful because you said who. It's not who, it's how. Let's be careful with this, because what we're doing is moving from nouns, an object, a desk, into verbs, into flowing. We are making everything alive again. You are not an object. So most people, as they move through their day, because they're minorly stressed in the background, they're anxious about who knows
Mm,
what, or just feeling behind, or thinking about I need to do this, or their mind is going right. Because of that, everyone around them has become an object.
mm,
And people also have anxiety in the background, right? I need to be seen as a certain thing. Um, I'm concerned about this. I'm lesser than. I'm better than. Or I deserve. Like there's all this crap in the background, because we have this ego that is kind of this modern thing that's kind of more of a focus, because we think we're supposed to be a self that looks a certain way and does a certain
mm.
thing,
Yeah.
because we're being judged. And this is all wrong. It's not the truth about nature. Like, we are nature. No branch on a tree is looking at a tree and next door and saying, my leaves are nicer than yours. Like, it doesn't
Mm,
make any sense. So when we dispense with a lot of the nouns, right? You are Giuliano. I am Marcy. Well, that's just a name. That's not who you are. That's a convenient label that you were taught to go by. But you are such a rich, incredible, ever changing being. I could never describe, like, if I were to just talk about who you are, or you for your entire lifetime, you could never really enable someone to
mm.
understand the richness of.
Yeah.
So verbs are far more realistic and accurate when it comes to talking about life. We don't presence, we are presencing. There's a whole lexicon for showing up. Being like talking to someone becomes being with and for.
Mm.
Intelligence becomes all intelligence, right? All the skills and knowledge that you need aren't inside of you. Hey, come on, people. um, right? It's in all. It's in nature. It's in the relationships. So everything is about how we relate and how everything is related to everything else. The entire existence of the universe began because there was a relationship of kind of some version of like matter over here and anti-matter here, and they weren't even. So because of that relationship, movement was created. And then from that, everything emerged out of that. So how everything relates true is far more the truth about life. So much of what we perceive and what we're taught in terms of how we see the world isn't really the honest, accurate understanding. I'm going to be quiet now, but I'd love to tell a story that I think makes this real,
Oh yeah, go ahead. Please tell me.
instead of philosophical. Yeah. So I was at the gym a couple months ago, and there was this man holding his infant grandson. And it was just, that really touches me. So I went over and made a comment about like, there's nothing that connects you with another being, other as much as what you're doing, right? Or very, very few things. I try not to use absolutes. I shouldn't say nothing, but, and 2 weeks later, he found me and he said, I can't stop thinking about what you said, because he said, I've never felt that I was truly present in my life. And I'm struggling with it. And I think that the way that I parent my kids, I'm creating the same struggle in them. And I'm kind of desperate. Would you help me? So I said, sure. So we're going to call him Chuck. So Chuck and I met at a cafe around 11 a.m. on a Tuesday a few months ago. And Chuck sits down and he's very prompt. And he explains that when he was growing up, there was a lot of discord in the home. His parents yelled. There were 3 boys. They all felt basically afraid. They didn't feel grounded and safe. So Chuck, who was the oldest, wanted to protect his brothers. And so he would say, let's go play basketball. Let me help you with your homework. Whatever his way of coping was to turn away from it and help them. And he kept everybody as safe as he could. And that behavior designed his entire life. So he married a woman who is largely kind of a dependent person. They're now getting divorced. He had 5 kids. He always needed to be needed. He now is very successful. He's the COO of a company. 500 people report to him. And what he did is he built a whole life around him where he was always needing to keep everything safe and everything going. And all the balls are always in the air. And he was always justifying not truly being in the moment because it felt unsafe. So that's the life that he built, and that's why he's never really able to presence. He said even on vacation, the moment that like everything is said and everyone seems fine, his mind pulls him out. What's next? What's next? So he really understands, but he can't change it. So he asked me what to do, and I said, okay, Chuck, there's a man over there at the next table. I said, look at that man. Looks at the man for a few seconds and comes back. It's like, how irresponsible. It's a Tuesday at 11 o'clock and he's not at his job, and what a slacker. And he comes out with his assessment. It's judgment. It's unkind. It's treating the person like an object. Is this sounding familiar? There's no room at all to see a human being. The person is a slacker. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and Chuck knows better. So he tells me that, and he's so self-assured. He's completely right. That's it. And he just looks at me as if like, what else? So I said, Chuck, keep looking. So he's like, why should I? But he goes back and he looks again. So now he notices, he's distracted. And he's not really looking at the woman that he's with. And he's kind of urgently searching for something. There's something wrong, he says. And then he turns back toward me. I said, well, okay. Keep looking. So he turns back. And his entire, like the way that he was sitting in the chair, everything relaxed and loosened. And he kind of slumped down a little bit, and his face started to droop. And he started to look really sad. And he said, there's something wrong. He said, this man is not happy. And I'm like, my eyes are getting all teared. He said, this man is not happy. And he said, maybe that woman is his daughter. And where's the mother? Like maybe his wife is in the hospital. And he said, I'm really sad. I'm sad. And his whole body was tuning in to what was going on. And he started to feel with. And then he said, Marcy, do you think that man might accept a hug? And Chuck is built and big, and he's in his late 50s, a good-looking guy. And I'm thinking, well, if you approach it the right way, if you say, I was kind of noticing you and feeling that something may be wrong, and I'm feeling that, and I just want to give you some support. Would you like a hug? And in that moment, Chuck looked at me and he said, I can't believe what you just did. I said, I didn't do anything. You allowed yourself, you permitted yourself. He switched from the left hemisphere to the right. He truly attended to the life of another. And this was seconds. This was maybe the whole thing was 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So what happens, so that's what the show up continuum teaches us. Notice, and for people listening, I'm going from the red into the orange of just showing up. You notice. And then as you move up toward green, you tune in, you feel with, and you enact care. And what's happening is you're going from just your individualized self mode to presencing within your situation member role, and then to being a fuller member of your societal role, being with and belonging within something beyond yourself. So that's the story. And what I recommend to people when they say, how do I practice truly showing up? That's what you do. You can be in a cafe, you can be on a sidewalk, you can be in your office, you can be in your home. Just look at someone and you'll notice your body will relax. You'll feel your muscles relax. If you're standing, you'll feel more weight on the soles of your feet. Your hands will relax. The muscles in your face will soften. And you will literally go from your head mode into more of a heart mode. That phrasing is from the founder of the Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism Research, whose name I'll think of in just a moment, Jim Doty. He's now, I believe, the head of the Dalai Lama Foundation. But I have half of a second master's from Stanford. So I participate still as an alumni of the of that program. The compassion, it's called the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research. But so anyway, no matter what you call it, head mode, heart mode, doesn't matter. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is how nature designed humans to show up, to basically experience something new, which only happens with the right system of attending. And then you can analyze it and process it and compare it to what you know before from the past to make sense of it. That's our whole sense making experience, which is very deep that we can talk about. But then what we failed to do is to then take that left hemispheric analysis, if you will, and put it back into the larger context using our right hemisphere.
Yeah.
We lose context of things and they become this little snapshot of time. And in doing so, we don't look at what's the system around it. How is this going to impact the people? In the future, months from now, years from now, we lose the broader context.
Yeah.
So instead of going back up to the mountain and looking down, the connectedness of all this is now something that I can work with. We leave it as that teeny little thing, and that's why it has no meaning. Are you with me? We don't go right. We go right, left, and get stuck, or we go left, and that's when we're anxious and unhappy and depressed and worried and lonely.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Marcy, I I really appreciate you coming on today. I feel like for people to like truly understand it as well, like to be able to get your book, how do they get your book if they want to read it? Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Mel Robbins wrote the quote that's on the cover. Thank you, Mel Robbins.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a bestseller. It also won the Hayakawa Book Prize. It won 2 Indie Book Awards, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so it's on Amazon, How We Choose to Show Up. And you can go to my website, choosetoshow.up.com. There's a link.
Awesome. I'm excited to get the book because I want to dig into it as well. But Marcy, I really appreciate you coming on today and explaining it all. And seriously, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I went on too long.
No. Seriously, I'm really glad that I've had you on, and I encourage people to take a look at your book too.
Well, be in touch if you take a look. I'm always looking for feedback, and I'm right now working on kind of a really simple Cliff Notes version, but it won't be out for a while.
Awesome, cool. All right, I appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you, Giuliano.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.